Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're watching us from around the world. Welcome to CDF Ambassador Voice Panel Discussion. We are very excited to have some elite folks here with us. And the topic that we're going to discuss today is called Continuous Delivery Tools and Technology 2022. So I'm going to take a popcorn approach to this. I'll start with my introduction, and then we'll go around the room. Maybe a minute or so to introduce yourselves, where you're coming from, what's your experience, and then we'll dive straight in. So my name is Savinder Puri. I'm the Global Head, Agile, DevSecOps, and Cloud Platform Development at Zensar Technologies. I'm based out of Pune in India. And I started all the way back in the year 2000 as what we used to call then a build jockey. The term DevOps hadn't been invented then. And over the past 20 years, I have worked in product companies, startup, services organization. I still remember in the early 2000s, I was working for Siemens PLM, and we used to build our product on 8 versions of Unix running on 4 parallel blade servers, and the build would take 48 hours to build. And in one of the consulting gigs that I did in the late 2018, 2019, my problem statement was take a line of code from the developer IDE to production in less than 20 minutes. So I've kind of been around the room, and life has been fun so far. So I will now go over to Jason. If you can introduce yourself, please.
Hi, sorry about that. My cat just jumped into my lap. Yeah, I'm Jason. Fairly new to the DevSecOps space, DevOps space. I started back in 2019, but that's also when I got involved with CDF, because I wanted to get more involved with the community. So yeah, right now I'm a DevSecOps engineer for a company called Clarity Innovations. So yeah, that's what I've been doing, and I'm looking forward to share and learn from all of you. Thanks.
Thank you. Next on my screen, I have BMK, so I'll go there next.
Awesome. Hey, nice to be here. Thanks, Savinder, for inviting me and for the opportunity. My name is BMK. I am one of the CDF. I think me too, as one of the earliest member of the CDF when they've opened up the country assembly, because similar to like when you have a problem, you belong here, kind of a community where this. So yes, I have done variety of roles in my career as a developer, architecture, solution space, cloud engineer, cloud architect, and cloud ops. I'm also a CNCF ambassador for New Zealand, along with the Devops Institute and also CDF. And right now I'm a value stream architect. I do care about the end-to-end flow. It's not just code to commit to deploy. So I look at from even what happens prior to further shifting left as well. DevOps, I've been attracted to DevOps since 2014 when I had a problem in deploying an application to production, so which I thought we could do it in 2.5 hours, took 2.5 days. So I think that was an eye-opener for me personally. And from that moment, no going back. So further going forward, upwards and onwards all the time. And great to be here. Thanks very much.
Sure. Thank you, BMK. And Oleg, do you want to go next, please?
Hello. My career started in hardware design and then in various kinds of electronic design automation. So I got introduced to CI/CD maybe around 2006 or 7. Starting from 2008, I've been using Hudson, then Jenkins. And eventually I started making big automation services at my companies, because when you develop hardware, you need a lot of automation. And when you have a lot of automation, of course, you need a lot to fix a lot of things to get them running. So I started contributing to open source. I became a member of the Jenkins community. Then I became a core maintainer. And currently, I'm one of the Jenkins governance board members and also a technical oversight committee member in the Continuous Delivery Foundation.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Oleg. All right, so let's dive in and staying true to our topic. Let me start with you, Oleg. I have you on the screen. So what, according to you, are the challenges for the teams adopting CI/CD in 2022 and beyond? If you can share your thoughts on that, please.
So for me, the biggest challenge is finding a right tool for the use case, because currently we live in very interesting times when we have multiple generations of tools available on the market. And these tools range from various cloud native solutions where every tool implements a single job and you have to glue them together, to various SaaS services or opinionated services for particular technologies, or even automation service like, let's say, Jenkins or TeamCity. So it's a huge range of tools. And for me, if I just start deploying something in the greenfield for my organization, the biggest challenge would be to choose the right tool and to choose it according to my project needs, so that it would be sustainable for years to come, and that it wouldn't require a massive investment to get it running and get it addressing my use cases, because I need to ship a product. CI/CD is just a tool for me.
Sure. Sure. That's a good point. Selecting the right tool is a big thing because we have so many choices now. In fact, I remember looking at Zebia Labs or digital.ai now, looking at their periodic table of tools and going, oh my God, this is a lot. And that's not the end all and be all. That's just one view of the tools that we have. BMK, your thoughts on this, please?
I think I agree with Oleg on this one, actually, so because we have variety of tools in the in the space. But if you see like what happened in the last 15 years in the industry, I think when I used to develop using Visual Basic and then C# in the early days, and we did have build automation, but we had not an automated deployment capabilities, back then those days. But what happened, interestingly, in the last maybe last 10 years, particularly, there are plenty of tools on the space, to help. And one of the CNCF ecosystem person that I worked with, she used to say that this is one of the best time to be in the infrastructure space in IT, and not 10 years before, right? Like, where you used to deal with the racks and servers and blades and switches and routers, right? But right now you're dealing with Kubernetes and Terraforms and the HashiCorp and products, etc. So because it's given plenty of opportunity. I think I agree in terms of we have a number of tools and also selecting a right tool. But I think the tools in terms of what you do in your organization depends on how big and how complex is your organization. There are also chances where multiple tools exist in your ecosystem as well. That's possible because you are dealing with mainframe, you're dealing with databases, you're dealing with sometimes like embedded systems or modern web applications, cloud native architecture, on-prem deployments, etc. So you do have opportunity to see that you could mix and match tools. Sometimes it could be an enterprise tool, or sometimes it could be an open source. So that, yes, that's all possible. And I think this is an interesting space to watch. Sure.
Thank you. Jason, what's your thought on this?
Yeah, I like to add on to that. I agree with Oleg and BMK, but I also say, having to educate, engineers. If you have a whole team of engineers, right, you bring on a new tool, like how quickly, should they be able to learn the tool before, it goes to production or everyone in the team begins to use it. So that's also really important. How much should they know before it becomes, used?
Okay. So Jason, you've just started dipping your toes in this area. So, and you're getting familiar with a lot of stuff. You've done a lot of work in container and the other areas as well. How do you think this tool space will evolve over the next 2 or 3 years? What do you think will be the next trends coming in 2022 and beyond?
Yeah. Well, from what it seems like, Kubernetes is here to stay for a while. Who knows how long? Maybe the next thing, the next best thing will come along. I don't know if it's HashiCorp Nomad or something else will take over,
Right.
but I think I guess the foundations or the core ideas from Kubernetes will move on to something else and become bigger than what it is. But most likely whatever we have now, most of the tools will end up dying or being consumed by things that can do more than what they offer. Possibly an all-in-one solution, a platform, which is kind of scary. It sounds scary, but it could also, be beneficial.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's what I think might happen.
All right.
Yes,
So you
and
brought,
Jason,
sorry,
you
go ahead, Gauri.
pointed out a really interesting fact about, how the tool space is maturing. It also puts a lot of pressure on the people who are using the tools, because there is new competencies, new skill set which is required to use those tools. So in my perspective, what I see from Canada DevOps practice is, again, it's like, I would like to see a more platform centric approach to these tools and capabilities. That's one thing which I would see happening 2022 and beyond. Another space which I see will mature is orchestration of these tools into a low code, no code platform. So that's something which I'm watching out, and I believe and I hope that it matures in a good way moving forward. There are other areas which we will talk about during this conversation, but I think these are the two things which I would like to reflect.
Perfect. Garima, I think you've brought in a very interesting thing on low code, no code, and that's a space which I've been watching very carefully. But BMK, I wanted to pick your brain on this. Do you think this low code, no code has a place beyond rapid prototyping? And in a large enterprise, do you think this will play out a space? Do you see that going forward?
Interesting that you asked that. 4 years before, I was involved in one of the program where we were looking at low code, no code tooling, and one of the top leading product on the space. But the me coming from a developer background in architecture, and straight away it said me that, okay, it's good for small line of business applications with not so much of logic into it, right? You can connect. I mean, this is my understanding on those days. But the flexibility that you get in writing a bespoke application, and then you can integrate, and some of the challenges that we deal every day in our life as an engineer, whether it comes to platform or design or performance or user functionality, cross-cutting concerns, etc. I think those all, you feel like, it's all taken away from you. And then you are left with a bare bone of a screen, and you think,
Right.
what I'm doing here. And I asked a question about okay, how the microservice architecture fits in here, how actually the continuous delivery fits in here, how do we source control those kind of changes, right? And then you keep asking all these questions like a typical customer. I think, as I mentioned earlier, everybody coexists here, and definitely there is a chance and opportunity and a place for tools like no code and low code. But what you could do, imagine that, can you build tools like Kubernetes, or maybe Terraform, or maybe Jenkins kind of a tool capability with a no code, low code, right? Because it's a tool for helping developers. So that space is going to be there. But can you build a complex banking application using a no code, low code? So there is a question mark there, right? So it fits somewhere, but not to the too left or not to extreme right as well. So somewhere in the middle, maybe staff assisted scenarios, like where your small applications, the staff members helping the customers, like over a contact center, or maybe a store, or maybe an airline ticket booking or something like that. Maybe there is an opportunity there. But I think this whole space is evolving now, and who knows, maybe as Jason said, Kubernetes has become a de facto now. So you'll see that's growing large, and the ecosystem around that also going large. So similar to the no code happen.
Right. And I think I also like to add something to it. And BMK, I think you have touched upon a few very good points. And when we talk about these kind of platforms, we also need to take the maturity model and how this, whole area will develop and mature as we go along. What we are seeing, and this is based on my interaction with digital main street This is how we call it in Canada, with like small and medium business enterprises going digital. So there definitely it has a lot of value when you talk about low code platforms, and that maybe that's the starting point. Now, whether this will mature to a complex banking application, telecom application, or life saving, platform, a digital platform, this is something which we will have to still explore. And I completely agree with you that this is something will mature as we go along.
Yep. I was recently doing work with a retailer in the UK, and they are launching a new line of products. And they were still strategizing on what that should be, how it should be brought to the market. And that's where I realized that those kind of things, coupled with a UX consulting team, that combined with the low code, no code, gives an opportunity to get the product live, almost touch and feel the product. And that gives a very good perspective when you're thinking about, expanding your line of businesses or rapidly going into the market and trying something new. That's one space I saw these things fitting very well.
Yeah, so experimentation, right? Like a product prototyping, product experiment, doing a, what do you call, 2 feet water testing or something like that people call, like you just touch whether the water is cold or not. Those kind of experimentation, I agree. Yeah,
not build a bank though.
Or you don't trust a bank, right? You don't trust a bank if that functions like that.
Not if it's built in no code. No, today I wouldn't. Who knows? Maybe tomorrow I would. Who knows? So I wanted to go to Oleg, and Oleg, pick your brains. You've done a lot of work in the Jenkins, the Cloud-Bees variant, and that area, and all of us, anybody who's heard of DevOps, by default has heard of Jenkins, whether worked, not worked, but Jenkins is de facto where DevOps starts from, right? So Oleg, how do you see Jenkins evolving over the next year or two? What's your thought there?
Yeah, that's a good question. And actually, I'm about publishing my vision for Jenkins after November 1st. But yeah, what I see happening on Jenkins is firstly that it should proceed as it is as automation server. At the same time, it has to become a first-class citizen in cloud native and Kubernetes environments. So it should be more scalable. It should integrate with standard pipeline engines like Tekton. It might sound odd because Jenkins it's a pipeline engine on its own. But yeah, what I see changing in the industry that many areas actually become a commodity. So for pipeline engine, okay, you can take Tekton or other solutions. For event management and integration with the SIEM, okay, you can take Pro, etc., etc. So there are common building blocks, and what I see happening in the industry, even beyond CI/CD, that now you actually rely on solutions built in a Unix way. So a small project that does one thing well, for example, Artelius does configuration management. There are products doing other components, and but there is still orchestrator part. And how I see Jenkins is that it's great orchestrator and reporting part, and it can combine with other tools that implement other purposes in the CI/CD space. So this is what I would like to see.
Okay, that's interesting. Anybody, any thoughts on that?
So, I would add on to Jason, Oleg's point that, see, I mean, I agree, Savinder, because when it comes to continuous integration, continuous delivery, a lot of people that think about Jenkins, right? Like similar to what's happening in container space. Because when you say Kubernetes, then obviously you're in container space. Like, sounds really cool, the term, right? And the same with the Jenkins as well. I mean, I've done in my past role in the early days, like Ant scripting the Ants build, and then FXCorp, and using some of the MS build classic UI editor for the XAML file. I don't remember, like, do you remember there's used to be a XAML file, XAML,
yes,
like,
Well familiar, not missing at all.
Yeah, so I have done build automation using those kind of tools, and I always scratch ahead actually where things go wrong and editing the XAML file, etc. The one thing that I've seen what is happening now, I mean, maybe Jason and Oleg and Garima, you can pitch in. more and more the complex thing, it's all now abstracted away from the developers. So in my view, it's making the life of the developers and engineers more easy. For example, you need not to worry about XAML kind of a days, right? Like, you have to edit. Even look at what's happening with the Azure DevOps at the moment, right? Your AWS code deploy. Things are really become easy, like, provisioning infrastructure, provisioning your, your resources on, cloud platforms, or template engines with the Jenkins, right? Because those kind of things are actually a cool addition. Like, you don't need to create from scratch every time. Rather, those are abstracted and available as a plugin, available as a self-service, available as an API. So by the way, you just need to make a call, things are ready for you. Key Vault, make a call, Key Vault is available for you, right? And you need to plug in some security scanning, like, then you plug in, then you have that capability available for you. So it's like this ecosystem is going similar to what's happening in Kubernetes and Operator. Same thing happened with Jenkins. We have, as Oleg said, like, it's your orchestrator and engine for managing your entire CI/CD. So that's my take. And I think what Jenkins has done, what other tools have done in this space is tremendous, actually making the engineer's life easy. At the end of the day, it makes our life easy. That's my view.
So BMK, I'm going to throw a curveball at you and say,
yes,
is that really such a good thing if you abstract and make it so simple? Because when you and me, going back 20 years, right, we knew exactly what was going on under the hood, right? We could look at the pulse and figure out what's going on. But today, with so much things abstracted and life made so simple, do you think the engineers who are, now getting into DevOps, are they losing out on something by their life being so easy?
That's a really good question. But let me tell you this, Saminder. What happened 10, 20 years before, 20 years before, XAML days and XML for configuration. What's happening now, it's completely different. Look at, Jason is working in Kubernetes space and containers, right? Now ask him question, how many lines of code Kubernetes is in open source? And does he know each and every bits and bolt of that, nuts and bolt of that system? Not, because it's a massive system. See, this is where, I agree with you. I want to know what is there inside the code. Actually, this is similar. I would like to plug in, Garima, with your permission. People who are anti-vax at the moment, they want to know what is there in the vaccination. I would tell you that sometimes it's really good, take it. You don't need to deep dive into it, right? Because it's a life-saving opportunity. But the amount of AI and machine learning has come in the space has taken those problems away from you, because the instrumentation and the amount of data that is coming in, it's highly impossible for human to sit and model and understand those kind of things. This is where actually you leverage those kind of tools and capabilities like artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, those kind of things as well. Like, it's giving you a lot of information. So you don't need to understand line by line, rather you look for the particular signal or outcome from system. So that's my takes.
No, fair point.
Actually, Savinder, if I can jump in real quick.
Actually, I was about to call out on you.
This is a great question too, because it's something I constantly think about, especially when, you guys mentioned low code, no code. I understand why it's necessary, right? It helps you get started faster, right? But if you do that, if you make things easy, right, there's, like you said, there's so much abstraction. Now, the next generation of engineers, what are they learning, right? For example, you mentioned you knew how you used to know, the back end, right, how things worked. But nowadays, it's not so much necessary. You don't really need to know that much because they give it all to you. So you're learning, right? But you're not learning. You're not being, a subject matter expert per se. You're not going deep into, the system. And I feel like, personally, I feel like that's one of my goals down the road, is to go, deep into, the machine, or to see how things work. 'Cause I believe that's how you become a better engineer. So that's something I'm afraid of, with the new technologies that are coming out.
Yeah. Hey, Savinder, I would like to answer that to Jason, if you don't mind, please.
Sure.
Jason. Yeah, Jason, I think it's a good point, but I think I think that is we all suffer from the disease of, as a developer, to know anything and everything under the hood, right? But at some stage, it's something like a mindful meditation, right? You have to let go, take a deep breath and let go. The reason, because it's a highly impossible for us to gain an expertise and knowing the end-to-end system. Because what's happening in terms of the cognitive load of an individual is that you have a mental model in your mind of how the system is functioning. But if you ask this question, okay, you're working in a Kubernetes and container space and scanning and DevSecOps space. Now, do you know anything and everything happening in that space in your mind? Do you have that in a mental model? Because that's really impossible, right? And I think that is the reason why I say the industry has taken it has pivoted in a different way. Like you have a full stack engineer, you have a backend engineer, you have a middleware experts, you have a data ops engineers, you have a DevSecOps engineers, now DevOps engineers, right? You have multiple roles have come. By the way, then you don't need to worry about, oh, I am a Kubernetes developer. I need to know how the application is running. I need to know how the infrastructure is provisioned. I need to know how the backend is connected, how the configuration management happens. No, there are few things that you abstract away. That's what I mean by abstraction. It's not that you don't care. For example, if you're a full stack developer, you definitely will understand anything and everything related to that part. 100%. Yes. But maybe you not worry about the API gateway and API management and envoy proxy and then Istio mesh, etc. But that's what I mean by that. So it's not that we don't want people to learn on that side. But it's a good fair point, Jason.
Yeah, I want to add one thing to it, and it's a short personal story. So when I actually started my career back in time, not many people know that my first assignment and my first project was writing a data charging gateway, the code for that. And back in time, actually, I never used data on my phone. I actually didn't had a mobile phone. So I think from there my journey started, and I saw that how complex and complicated things can be when you actually take abstraction to a level that people don't understand what they're doing. So there's a trade-off, and I see this as an excellent discussion which we had today, that this trade-off or balance which we have to maintain has to be there to kind of ensure that there are two sides of the coin, right? So from an investment point of view, now I sit on the board of one of the companies, and the decisions I would like to make is that whether to invest in tool or whether to invest in people. So I think there's a balance and trade-off between both of them, and I think we should take competence building, skill building, investing in people as much as we are actually concentrated on investing on tools. So that's something which is my personal learning from back in time.
Sure, Garima, thank you for that. And I'll also add a 30-second personal story. So when I used to work in Siemens, and I told about that code which would build for 14 hours, right? That build system was 14,000 lines of shell and Perl program. And we used to, between us, we used to call it the freaking 14. Right? That would be the name of the CI system. So, all right, I'm conscious of time. Garima, do we have time for one question, or should we wrap it up?
We should have time for one more question.
Okay, one last question then.
I think Oleg wanted to go.
Sorry?
I think Oleg wanted to say something.
Sorry,
I just wanted to rant about the complexity of current applications, but I wanted to mention one thing we didn't cover yet: observability and basically revolution on distributed tracing happening right now. Because when I started my career, yes, there were a lot of monitoring tools like Xenos, Nagios. Yeah, you would install them, create agents, then collect the data. But now actually many tools provide telemetry and tracing capabilities out of the box. There is emerging open standard called Open Telemetry, which includes three main areas at the moment. So it's tracing, which you can see, for example, in Jaeger, in Captain. You can see events, which is basically was metrics. It was a part of Open Metrics project. It's consumed by Prometheus at the moment, as well as telemetry. And last but not least, logs. So currently there is a push in the ecosystem to actually consolidate and unify this logging. And hopefully soon it will provide us with new opportunities to actually understand what's happening in these systems. because now, people always say that, you need to have a PhD degree to understand what happens in these systems. I do have a PhD degree, it doesn't help me at all. I hope that maybe in the 5 to 10 years, the tools will completely change, and I'm excited to see the change in the CI/CD space happening right now.
Yeah. Hey, so the quick plug for me. Hey, thanks, Oleg, for that. Like, if you've heard what Oleg mentioned in last maybe 60 seconds or 90 seconds, he gave a big shopping list of all the tools that you need to have in your big basket. I mean, I think that is a true state of the complexity that we are dealing with, right? Like, what Saminder, what you did in 20 years before, what I did in 20 years before. One application monolith, you build and you deploy an MSI application or installer, job done, right? No, it's not that. The complexity of distributed applications and architecture, and also the tracing and the capability that has to, you have to deal with that. You have multiple tools in this ecosystem. So as I said, like, it's not one tool. You can't solve all the problem with only one tool. Like, I'm going to use only Kubernetes or use only Jenkins. No, you need to have, I think you need to marry all those tools together. By the way, they can play nice harmony, orchestra for you, because as he said, solving a microservice architecture production issue is like solving a murder mystery, right? You don't know where things are going wrong and what's happening, and you need somebody like, a James Bond kind of a person to detect and solve the problem. And he rightly made that point. And I think that is most important aspect of it. And that is the change that's happening at the moment. It's not just about observability. I mean, I see observability as the end-to-end, like, also you're learning from production, how it's running and what's happening, and also your tools, what it's doing, and as a developer, your day-to-day interaction, and also further to the left, even for the people who are dealing with the business and ideation process, capturing those things. So you look at from the holistic point of view.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good point, BMK. And I remember reading about an article by Martin Fowler long time back, and he said you have to be this tall to understand microservices.
Yeah. You need to be this tall to do right? Like a theme park analogy.
Something like that. Yeah, this tall to do micro or something like that. Yeah, I remember reading that. So I think we are out of time. But Garima, if I can invite you to talk about CDF Ambassador Group and what's happening there, what's happening in Canada. If you can take a couple of minutes and talk about it, please.
Right. Thank you, Savinder, and thank you all of you for being in the panel today. This was really insightful because what I see is we discussed about day-to-day practical challenges alongside what is in store with for us in future, right? So this is what we are doing at Continuous Delivery Foundation. We want to build this ecosystem of continuous delivery practices as well as tools, and this ambassador group is trying to construct how it could look like, what kind of initiatives we need to have in order to kind of create the right set of dialogue. So we will have this voice connect at least a quarter, and this is the starting point. So I thank you all for being part of this. Stay tuned. You will see more and more updates from us in the coming weeks and months.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your time. Appreciate that. And we'll see you around. Cheers.
Thank you. Thank you, Garima. And congratulations on Chief Ambassador role with CDF. And Oleg, all the best for Jenkins' upcoming release, mate, in November. And I think continue with your PhD.
Well, I already graduated, and maybe one of the reasons why it's not that helpful, it's that it's PhD in hardware design, not actually in computer science.
Yeah, there we go. I think Jason, thanks very much for us. I think people like you who design the future for the space now. So it's I think